Okay. So welcome to our first town hall meeting. We'll try to do these monthly. My name is Jessica Blair. I am the assistant principal at Case. Mr. Taylor was unable to make it tonight, but I'm sure you'll see him at most of the other ones. So tonight our focus is on students' mental health and some of the other physical health things that they have going on. We had Pivot come in last year. They did some student focus groups in our school and also a couple other local school districts. And they found out some awesome information and they presented it to our health teachers and myself. And we really felt strongly that our parents needed to hear some of these things and exactly what the students are seeing, what they know about, what kind of things are going on. And so they have a really awesome presentation to share with you tonight. So I want to welcome Tammy Miller and Kathleen Hershey, and I will hand it right over to you guys. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for having us. I am going to try to share my screen if that's okay with you. Okay. And just let me know if you can see that.
That looks good.
All right, perfect. So I'm just going to go through and kind of tell you why we are in the schools, and we do originate from Pivot. I am the project director and Kathleen is the task force coordinator. And so she's actually who will be seen in the school and is very hands-on with working with the youth. And my job's basically just to have a vision and make sure it kind of moves forward and that we're doing everything that we need to do on our end to report back. It's a federally funded grant. And we also have an awesome person that works with us as well on the team, and her name is Celia Cook. And her job, she's a data support specialist. You will see her sometimes with Kathleen. They do tag team a lot together, but she really is about epidemiology and making sure the data, and we have presentations and everything is data that we can give back to the schools and the community, but also data that we can report and then make decisions from. So what we did is in 2021, we did in March, we went through 3 school districts in the high school and in the junior high. So 7th and 8th grade, and then 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade was a different group. And we did focus groups. And you can imagine that was very challenging because we were right in the midst of COVID. And so this is basically a summary of those focus groups. We did it in Watertown. We also did it in Belleville, Henderson, and Lafargeville. And so you will see data reflected from that. Let's see if I can, oh, there we go. What this really falls under that you might see in the community and our media and whatnot is we fall under Pivot, of course, but we fall under a community coalition called the Alliance for Better Communities. And underneath that is the Youth Alliance of Jefferson County, which is supported by a grant that's called Healthy Jefferson County. And the reason that we are focused on basically come from the ABC or the Alliance for Better Communities is really we're trying to reduce early use of alcohol and substances. We're trying to delay it because we know research tells us the longer that we delay a youth from using, the more likely they are to be successful and not have barriers. And then if they are using, and we really do hope at the level of 7th and 8th grade that we're not seeing a lot of that, but if they are experimenting, that we can stop that experimenting by empowering them with knowledge to make good decisions based on their individual bodies and how youth react to substances and alcohol. And so this is just a summary real quick of Healthy Jefferson. Our mission is to create a safe community for all youth. And at the end of the day, it's by reducing and delaying the use of alcohol and substances by youth. You will see some concentration on right now marijuana because marijuana has been legalized for recreational use in our community. And what we're concerned of is how does that affect our youth? How does that affect our young people? Because their brains are not developed until they're 25. Some people say 27, and it can have significant bad effects on not only their physical health, but also their mental health, which we'll talk a little bit about. And Jessica, if I talk too fast, just slow me down or tell me there's a question. And Kathleen, I don't know if you do have the chat, Kathleen will keep an eye on that and kind of wave at me if I'm going too fast. Okay. So this is basically the delay and decrease. It's a delay the onset of alcohol use, use of prescription drugs. Obviously, we're very concerned about that. We don't want our homes, to be the first place that a kid gets, a pill or something that they may like. We're interested in obviously anything that's not prescribed by a doctor. Vaping and e-cigarettes are a huge concern. We partner with schools we'll be putting out big disposal units and whatnot to try to reduce that vape use. And progression of substance abuse among youth, ages 9 to 11, 12 to 17. And then we also have this young adult group where we work at the college age kids or young adults in the 18 to 25 years. We do this with the Youth Alliance by engaging youth. We want to get them into healthy experiences. We want them to learn how their brain works. We want them to learn how a substance affects them. So if they're not with us as parents or educators, that they can make a choice that's good for them, that they have the words and the empowerment that they can do so. We like to equip them with the knowledge and skills that they can do that. We give them healthy experiences. You'll see a lot of them. We'll kind of show you our upcoming projects that we have. They can be challenging right now because of COVID. We're trying to work with the schools as much as that we can, be one-on-one and in person, not one-on-one, but person, face-to-face with youth. But we do like to give healthy experiences. We like to say healthy highs, let kids learn how to have a good time in that endorphin rush that is not substance based. And we like to empower them to have a voice. The really cool thing about the Youth Alliance that I love is that we are charged with putting a plan in place every year. It's a 5-year grant. And then if we do a good job, and I hope our team will, it'll be renewed. And really, we want to empower youth to have given us the direction of what they need. Do they need healthy experiences in music or art or whatnot? What do they want? What do they want to know more about? What do they think their parents should be, know more about? Even if kids don't want to give us information about themselves, they always want to give us information about how to parent better to their siblings even. And so sometimes we find out information that way. We will share some of these data pieces in just a second. So as I said, Belleville, Henderson, Lafargeville, Watertown were our focus groups. It was basically over a 3-week period of time. We had a nice little wagon. I'm sure you've seen them or brought them to a game or a concert, and we packed it full of lots of things to get the kids involved. We did middle school at one day, and then we did the high school at another day or multiple days of. And you can see the dates that we did it. Now it does, that is in the late spring, just prior to summer of last year. And to be honest, that is actually a really current data poll. We have what we do, we call it the Prevention Needs Assessment, which is a all-inclusive county poll of youth. Our last one is 2018. We should have had one in 2020, but unfortunately due to COVID, we waited. There will be one coming up in 2022, but even having a 2018 data poll is actually quite current. You can find those on our website, which we'll make available. And Jessica, I'm going to make this whole PowerPoint available to you. It's on Adobe and you can just send it out if anybody wants it. So our observations overall, kind of in a summary. Obviously, the barriers was the pandemic and the COVID-19 protocols. It was a different time than even now. And I know that we all kind of feel still locked down right now, especially in school. But at that point, we were very locked down. There was no interactions without masks unless you were sitting and eating and whatnot. We did find that overall, the consensus was kids were disengaged. That was coming from not only the educators and support staff and whatnot in the schools and parents, but those words, we had kids truly reflect that, a connection void. They just were not feeling connected. It's funny. I don't think it wasn't you, Jessica. It was another school district who said to us, we were in a meeting last week, and she said, I was just talking to our staff, and the last time our kids had a normal school year. So if they were in 5th grade, the last time they had a normal school year was in the 2nd grade. And when you really wrap your head around, I've repeated that probably 1,000 times since she said that. It just was so impactful to me as a community member, but as a parent, I just thought, oh my gosh, how much growth happens and how much connection happens in schools in those grades, the 3rd and the 4th. And it's kind of like we're really just starting over. Nothing that you guys don't know. So we adapted. I mean, if nothing else, we are creative. We knew that we needed to see kids' faces. They needed to see ours because we hadn't had relationships set up because we couldn't be in the schools. So we knew that we needed to see those facial expressions. And the only way we could was to bring food and share a meal with them and then social distance. So we did. We brought because we know that's a kid's favorite thing. We brought some gifts and some swag and stuff. We put our logo on there, and we brought snacks. If it was breakfast time, we brought donuts. No, they were not the healthiest, but we threw in an apple and some juice. We tried to make it fun for them, and they were actually very, very receptive. And these are the things we talked about in the focus groups. So it was 8 questions. There might be a leading question here or there to kind of get it a little bit more adapted to whatever age or group that we might have been talking to. But overall, we talked about general use of substances, alcohol, pills, marijuana, anything that they may be acquainted with. Obviously, that conversation when you're dealing with that 7th and 8th grade level is a different conversation than when you're dealing with that 9th through 12th level, right? Marijuana legalization, we talked on. Kids are smart. They knew it's getting legalized. Their friends talk. So we wanted to kind of get their perceptions of that. How do they perceive it'll affect them? And what do they believe adults and youth should know? We also talked about well-being. As we thought at that time, we were entering the end of the pandemic, but here we are again. We wanted to kind of get an idea of how they felt coming out of that. We were, I think in February, we were at our head, the strongest, and then we were coming back out of it. And we thought, where do you guys feel? What's your well-being, your sense of well-being? We work with the schools a lot of times to find out what they want to know when we do these data polls. And that was a big question that school districts want to know. What do kids feel and how do they feel? And then we worked on prevention efforts because we want to know when we're throwing money out in the community, are we throwing it in the right place? And, Kathleen and I have some funny stories about kids' reactions, to what we were doing and what we could be doing and whatnot. So that was enjoyable as well. So this is kind of the beginning of it. And I think the next 3 or 4 slides are basically pieces of a summary poster that we've put out. It's on our Youth Alliance Facebook page. We put it out in the schools. We'll put some more out. It was really a good summary piece. And our focus obviously was on vapes, alcohol, and drugs. We did separate the data so you could see the differences between ages. Grades 7th and 8th, number one concern of, what we should be concerned about, the number one substance they're using is vapes. Number 2 is alcohol, 3 is cigarettes. And 4 I didn't love was inhalants. And I think that the reason we saw that pop up is because we had to think about what was accessible to youth at the time. And youth could be not in a school environment. They could be in a home or, in the community or in a garage or whatnot. And inhalants, unfortunately, we all have them. They're available. And so that's why we saw that pop up and we normally wouldn't. And then grades 9 through 12, vape still your number 1, weed is number 2, alcohol, and then was number 3, and then prescription medication was your number 4. Now, when talking, so a great thing to note is when you're talking to 7th and 8th graders about vapes, they're talking about nicotine, right? When you're talking to 9th through 12th, it's a mix. It's nicotine and it's marijuana or THC. So that's important to kind of note. Let's see. Well, 7th and 8th grades are reporting that they're getting it from their siblings, number one. And when we're saying they're getting it from, it's not that somebody's handing it to them. It's that they're finding it, they're finding it in a book bag, or they're finding it in the trash, or they're finding it. So obviously, number one was siblings. Number two is parents. We heard that a lot when we talked about, alcohol, because they talked about how, there's a liquor cabinet or a wine cabinet and whatnot. Older friends are a huge one. And then I really thought it was interesting, the piece for 7th and 8th graders, a lot of them reported the first time that they or somebody they knew had used a vape was finding it on the ground. And so that let us know that we need to be really cautious about that. If you have anybody that who does vapes, you'll know that you can find those little cartridges they never make it to the trash, which is horrible. Well, now we know that they do find it somewhere. They make it to a kid or an animal. They're poisonous to animals, so that's good stuff to know. Youth grade 9 through 12, siblings, number one still, parents, number two, social media. We did find out some interesting information, especially about Snapchat and how Snapchat is a way that they're meeting up and buying marijuana, or they're buying pills. And then, of course, a little surprise to us was some of our two outlying districts had known connections in Watertown for a dealer here or there in particular neighborhoods. And they also were reaching those kids via social media. So important to know. Let's see, I have to keep moving, bear with me because I keep moving our faces around, which if I take 2 seconds, I'll just make it smaller here. There. All right, so this one was really geared towards marijuana legalization. We wanted to have a good feel where kids were coming from. Youth, grades 7th and 8th, think they would, they thought the legalization will make it more accessible. It'll increase kids using it. It'll make more kids and adults try it because they'll see it. It'll be more readily available, like alcohol. They'll see more adults use it openly, and that it'll be more visible to kids, and therefore putting that in their mind that, hey, it's a safe substance for them to use. The 9th through 12th graders, one of the quotes we had was, "It will not end well for people under 18." I thought that was, pretty interesting that a youth actually said that. It'll be easier for teens to get. It'll increase the amount being used by teens and adults, increase the amount of teens and adults using it, and then make more adults to use it more openly and also more visible to use. So they really agreed on several things, I think, which was important to note. We asked them a question, which was, what information do you think adults need to know? I think it is important, and Kathy, correct me if you have an additional thing to add here. The kids that we had in these groups, we had the kids that you would not think use any substances. We also would have kids that admittedly used substances. And so it was a really nice mesh, and they all were very respectful and worked well with each other in conversation. And I'll let Kathy kind of summarize some of her observations when we get through a couple of these slides, because she has some interesting ones, because I was the chatty Kathy, not that Kathy, during the time. And she would kind of, she would pipe in when she'd see I missed something or we needed to redirect. But Kathleen was really good about making sure we had complete, concise notes from the focus groups. So we asked them, what do you think adults need to know? Vapes can be nicotine or marijuana. That was consistent. The THC level is highest in vapes or edibles most times. They really focused on, it was funny, they didn't really understand the difference, the vast difference in THC, right? But they understood that there is a difference in THC. They knew that what you can smoke that's in the plant version is definitely not as strong as what you're going to get in those concentrates or the edibles. I thought that was interesting. And they really felt like maybe their parents didn't know that. Marijuana can be laced with something else. They had I would say a lot of kids really got this piece. They knew terms like fentanyl. They knew that it could be laced with something and they may not know what they were going to get. And they felt that that was dangerous across the board. Now that might have manifested in a conversation about legalization that in that older group might have led to, we believe that legalization may be helpful because maybe it'll be a safer avenue. And that was fine. Whatever their opinions were, our job was to just listen and be able to kind of take the information. And I think that, a majority of the kids realizing that street drugs can be laced was very important. People are selling kids and teens marijuana and other substances through social media, such as Snapchat. And a basic marijuana joint from an adult was a kid. It might have had 1 to 3% THC, and now it's about 7 times that. And so they didn't know the exact THC levels, but they knew that whatever mom and dad smoked back in the day was not what is out there now. And so we really thought that that was interesting information to put out there. Overwhelmingly, what we also heard was they care about what adults think. They care about what adults' opinions are. They care about their teachers. They care about the person who's watching the hall. They definitely care about their parents. And so we took that as a parent myself, and I know Kathleen, that was a win for us. We liked hearing that. What information do you think, this was a question, that other kids need to know? And edibles can be dangerous and don't work immediately. That was key. They felt like, say, their younger sibling was going, or a friend who's not used to an edible, they needed to know that they are high in concentrate. They have to work through your system. It's not going to work immediately, and it can get them into trouble. Increasing the danger of using too much and not really knowing what you're getting. Marijuana can make depression, anxiety worse, not better. Vaping is everywhere. You probably won't smell it or see it. And once again, they said it's everywhere. Lots of kids are vaping and they're just vaping everywhere. Home, they're vaping in school, and a lot of, your smoke detectors and whatnot are not going to pick up on them. And then most times they get alcohol, nicotine, and drugs from, parents not paying attention, or older siblings not paying attention. And I think as a parent, that was important for me to hear. My kids may be off and into college now, but it really made me think back, how was I? Was I good about securing things? And I definitely could have been better. This was a piece that we really enjoyed. It was a tough question. How are you feeling right now? How are you feeling, and how are your friends feeling? Because we were not hearing positive things. We were hearing, and these are the exact words that came out of that: stressed, anxious, detached, hopeless, depressed, sad, lonely came out a lot. Self-conscious, they felt like they're struggling, scared, and unsure of the future. Those are not Kathleen and I's words. Those are the youth's words. They also shared, though, that we can help them, because we asked, that was our follow-up question. How can the community help? How can adults help? How can you teachers help? And they just felt that talking more, sharing time, they did report that the positive to the pandemic was that they felt like they really had quality time with family. They liked the game nights. They liked the more, cooking and sitting down. I thought that was fantastic to hear. Giving information. They want information, but not scare tactics. As a preventionist, that was great for me to hear. We need to know that, right? More time with friends. They want parents to ask about school, know how they are feeling, or ask how they're feeling, and understand that how they're feeling, in the morning might be different in the evening, and just to kind of keep a constant ask there. And then really we heard quite a bit is they really needed structure back. They felt like they had a loss of structure. They were concerned about going into the next school year without having that structure. And they had some fears about, grades and how they would be doing. Kathleen, can you just kind of cover anything? I mean, I didn't I covered part of the mental health, and we'll kind of wrap that up of how it relates to marijuana, but can you cover anything that I might have missed or your observations?
One thing I wanted to interject, or I was thinking, I've been thinking a lot about this because of some other things, but during, I think it was 2 or 3 different groups, and it was primarily female youth that talked about it. And that might be because it impacts them more, or just that they were more open, but about being self-conscious, it seemed like their self-consciousness with their friends or interaction was exacerbated by the use of social media, which was a blessing during lockdown. And that was a way kids were primarily able to communicate with each other. But quite a few young ladies shared that they were at the point where they were so much in their head and isolated and lonely that if they wrote something out and someone didn't answer them, that they were over analyzing it. And that just seemed to be something that came up a lot, or it made them even more hyper aware of their social standing or how they fit in with other people. So I thought that was a really interesting piece. And this summer, I was fortunate enough to be able to go into Watertown School and work with EPIC Camp kids, which are middle school age kids in Watertown. And we worked on that with male youth and female youth, just talking about, healthy social media uses and stuff like that, and how it can impact your mental health. But other than that, Tammy, I think you covered everything amazingly.
That's why I love you. I think that was a great point to bring up. Thank you, because we did have several female youth say that. I will tell you what gave me pause, and I think Kathleen can probably agree to this. The overall, we asked about the legalization of marijuana. I think in question 3, we went to mental health in question 8. In the third question, why, one of the things we asked was why would kids use marijuana? Because we wanted to know. And we had an overwhelming to chill us out, to help us relax, to help us not be depressed, and to help us feel less anxious. And that really, as somebody who works in prevention, frightened me, because we know in youth under the age of 25, but most in particular under the age of 18, it can increase all of those feelings. And so that was incredibly frightening, that how can marijuana make you feel? The answer to feeling anxious, depressed, sad, it was an equation of marijuana. And that just really, that frightened us, that told us we needed to do a better job in the community about sharing the effects on the youth brain. So this is kind of where we're at now in regards to, we're reaching them. They gave us a lot of information. They told us YouTube, Instagram, TikTok is the #1. We've made a decision at the Youth Coalition to not do TikTok. Mainly, we will partner with somebody who'll do it. We're not going to take it on. It is a challenging thing to take on, and the algorithms can be a little frightening about what is shown to youth. And I think we're not ready to tackle that yet. We do know, though, that we're working through commercials and working with youth on podcasts and Instagram and YouTube, and how we can partner on the TikTok thing. School presentations, they found them very impactful. They found somebody coming into the school and them sitting in the auditorium and speaking a personal story, they found very impactful. Influential people sharing stories works for them. Parents' voices are important. They listen. That was great to hear. It was surprising because I think in our heads as parents, sometimes we don't always think that, keep updated and current with the trends. And that was a really good one. That told us that we need to do data polls more often, that we need, and in particular, focus groups that we can, we had a kid who basically said to us, he was from Belleville, and he said, you come out with commercials, adults comes out with commercials, and we've already moved on to something else. So your information is not current. That was great to hear, and told us that we needed kids like that on our youth coalition that tells us how are we going to reach you? Future roadmap, this is just a summary. We do community partnerships. We partner with anybody. If somebody's working with youth, we're partnering with them. Public awareness campaigns, you'll see it's a lot in the media. We are a coalition, great news. We have a lot of media money. We can do that. Increased healthy events for youth. We're working on it. We're trying to do as many as we can, at least one civic engagement a month, and then one healthy activity a month. Continual build of the Youth Alliance. We want to have youth's voices. Unfortunately, you know, with not being able to do everything in person or going into the winter and not knowing what that looks like, we've had to get creative and purchase some different technology and all of that, but you'll see what that looks like. We also have an adult support group. It's called a CAST, or a community adult support team. And that's for parents or educators or community members or people who, I don't know, somebody who works at a future dispensary who wants to not have youth buy. Whoever has a concern for youth and wants to make sure that they're on a healthy path with healthy lifestyles, we have a group for that as well, where their voice can be heard and they can be part of the planning. Current projects, we have just a couple going right now this month. We're putting together medication and cannabis safety lockboxes, because we know that with the legalization, it'll be in people's houses like alcohol and whatnot. So we want to give families the ability to lock it up and you know, not have kids have access to it. We also, we put the dog on there because who doesn't love a dog? And these things are toxic to animals. With that, we're handing out too, and the schools will get it tamper tape to go on alcohol or anything else, just so you know if it's been tampered with, if anybody wants it. We're doing this on Monday. We still have a few seats available. It's a marijuana's impact on the community. It's lunch is included. It's chicken parmesan. It's at the Hilton Garden. It's 9 to 2. We have 2 guest speakers and then a variety of panel speakers. But our guest speakers, one is Laura Stack. She's the CEO of Johnny's Ambassadors out of Colorado. Laura, unfortunately, her son had committed suicide due to increased psychosis due to cannabis use concentrates. And then we have Sheriff Spurlock, and Sheriff Spurlock just kind of speaks to, you know, the overall community piece. You know, what should we kind of make sure that we prepare ourselves for? We just did a take back event. You can see it was 370 pounds of you know, pills not being used that we went ahead and took back with the help of Patty Ritchie and the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. That's always fun. We look forward to now, we'll get through this month, but then we're going to have kids actually help promote it and move forward. We do, if you miss that one, it's very quick. You get in and out in about 5 minutes. But if you miss this one, there will be another one on the 23rd. It's a Saturday at Kinney's on Coffeen Street with the Watertown Police Department. We will be there as well, handing out lock boxes and the Terra bags and everything else you can imagine, freebies. We ran rock painting contests. One of the most successful ones was for the recovery walk. We had over 400 rocks painted and inspirational sayings and given back so we could lay it on the route. We loved that. It was very empowering. And right now, Kathleen's running a gratitude pumpkin decorating contest where she's doing it everywhere and anywhere, and with kids groups and schools and community members. And then for the Salvation Army on Thanksgiving Day, those pumpkins will be able to go out with the dinners. And Kathleen, how many dinners are served on that day? I forget.
She said that traditionally they would do around 600, but last year with COVID, they did 817 dinners. So
that is our goal, is to have enough, and they're not fresh pumpkins. They're obviously pumpkins that'll last through a period of time, but to have enough pumpkins to go with each dinner. And then this is us, Kathleen's information, my information, Celia's information. We have a fantastic website we encourage everybody to use. On that website has a lot of resources. It has newsletters. It has anything you would imagine. It's got data and upcoming events. So it's the Youth Alliance of Jefferson County.com. And then of course we have a Facebook and an Instagram page, and we try to keep up on, you know, on anything that we need to know when it comes to youth. That is our presentation. Is there any questions?
All right. Thank you, Tammy and Kathleen. Yeah, you're welcome to either unmute yourself and ask a question, or the chat feature is at the bottom, and you can just type something in the chat. Either one will work.
I just want to say thank you. I thought it was very informative, and I appreciate the energy and time you put into it. Thank you.
We really appreciate that. No, it was a pleasure. We look forward to doing more, and we definitely like reporting out on it.
How many students were included in the groups, and was it random?
That's a great question.
So because there are 3 different school districts and they didn't have totally different ways of dealing with COVID, but there's different protocols in place in different districts. So we had to take different ways to get students. The guidance staff helped us find students to participate at Watertown and in the other districts. So it was pretty random, but we had to have some suggestions, and the groups were obviously smaller than would be ideal for us. So they ranged in size. I think we could go up to, I'm trying to remember, Tammy, it seems like a lifetime ago. I think the biggest one we had was, because you had to social distance, and that's why we staggered them. So probably 8 to 12 at the most,
Yeah, I feel like 11 was the number for our biggest group.
Yeah. And so we had another one where one poor young lady was alone, but she did really well. But then the others were all good, but yes.
Yeah.
So
I think, specifically for CASE, I can speak of when administration and school counselors were selecting groups, it was very important to us to have diversity from a lot of different respects, behavioral diversity, academic diversity, and just social emotional diversity and socioeconomic diversity. That was very key to us. I think we probably offered you up about 30 to 35 students, and we split those up into 6 small groups. So we actually had a pretty good, I think we reflected the general population very well, specifically at CASE.
Yes. Yeah, I would say that CASE was it was our largest group of kids, but they were split very well. So we had multiple times to ask kids different questions in the time periods. I think I had concerns at first because we were not in the schools to establish relationships of how are we going to identify kids. But those concerns quickly were dismissed because, in one of our groups in all of, across the county, but one of our groups, we had a kid whose dad owns a head shop and a bar. And so we got great information from that, that we were able to share, like, what should we tell parents? What should they worry about? And then we had kids that had no exposure to any substances, but we needed to hear that too. We need to hear all the sides. And that was really great to see reflected. I think we had one school that we might've been concerned about. And we had some community members that we kind of went to and said, can you beef up our focus groups? And so we did it that way. But that's why we have somebody like Celia on, because, that epidemiology piece is to make sure that we have as consistently, not neutral, but well diverse data as we can. Oh, thanks for saying that. We love sharing.
Thank you.
So I will put this out to you, Jessica, and then I encourage anybody, we will do this stuff all year round. If you want to get involved or if you want information or anything, please just let us know. We're just so excited about the project, and the Youth Alliance is here to stay as forever. Healthy Jefferson is a 5-year grant, which will be renewed because we're awesome, we hope. But we want something that's consistent that schools can use and communities can use the data and the resources.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate the partnership we have with you. Just a side note, how old does somebody have to be a part of your Youth Alliance?
So 7th and 8th grade, there will be a team actually at Case, and then 9th through 12th. And then we also have a young adult group that will meet separately, which is that, you know, you've graduated or you're out of school up to age 25, because actually kids listen to those kids. So you really want to, you know, not only serve them with information, but you also want to have them speak to the younger ones. And then, like I said, we have that CAST group, which is that adult support team, which is, you know, I think we probably have about 18 people on it now, 20 people. And we fall back on them for, hey, what are we missing? Are there some resources? Are there kids that we need? You know, how about the focus group? So what should we focus now, you know?
And we're going to be doing another focus group, I believe, in Watertown. We're giving everybody a couple weeks to see, but we had a meeting with Patty LaBar, and she said that, you know, there's a lot of challenges, behavioral challenges, and students struggling with coming back in. So I think our focus will be more really a lot on readjusting, mental health, et cetera, et cetera. So
great. Well, we appreciate you guys. Thank you for your presentation today. If anybody wants to stay on, maybe you have questions specifically about Case or anything like that, you're welcome to stay on with me and we can chat. But I appreciate everybody that was able to come out tonight and join us.
thank you for coming.
Thanks, guys.